Welcome back, everybody. We've had some really, really interesting talks with her regarding interior design, changing up your living space, finding things that are trending, just feeling better when you walk home into your door or go to work and you feel that where you are supports you, aligns with you. We're gonna dig into that and more and find her backstory, which is very interesting. Mary Jo Major joins us once again. How you doing today?
Hey Steve, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's good to have you back here. Now, normally, either we're looking at pictures or we're talking about different designs and trends and things like that. Your your story is an interesting one, and
Yes.
I don't feel that we've spent a lot of time on that. And what makes you different in my eyes and many others is your fresh perspective. You really have a fresh view, and you make design fun. Um,
Thank
but
you.
where did it begin for you? How did you decide, yeah, I want to be an interior designer? What was the starting point?
Yes, so I think everyone kind of has a different start in this field. A lot of people in my experience have kind of started later. They kind of come to the realization after years of doing something else, of doing a different career. And for me, I think I found out around 11 or so that this was an industry, actually creating
Hmm.
beautiful spaces. I would go into homes when I was younger with my mom of friends or my even my grandparents, and if there was something really beautiful, my mom would catch me almost like stroking it or just, wanting to just kind of
Embrace it.
sit,
Embrace it.
embrace it exactly
Yeah.
physically. And yeah, I think when I found out that that was a job, in my head, I was like, yeah, of course, this is it.
Wow.
And on top of that, I went to a specific art program at a high school in Houston, Texas, where I'm from. And I come from this kind of place of thinking that design is almost a form of art, if you will. I like to think of it sometimes as a form of installation art is how I describe it, where you're kind of living in colors and textures and shapes and forms. And yes, it's where you live, but it's also it's supposed to encapsulate beauty
You
and
know, I
art.
I got to download based on what you said.
Yeah,
Art is expression. You express yourself through art.
right.
Well, when you look at it through the lens of your home, you're
Mhm.
expressing yourself as well to others. You want them to feel a certain way, and of course yourself. So I totally see the connection.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yes. And I think that, this kind of goes into a little bit of some of the things that I really feel strongly about in design. And one of them in particular is mental health. I think for a lot of people, they might categorize interior design or even just kind of how they live as a potentially just something that's not needed, just kind of like an aesthetic that it's there, but it doesn't really have any value. And I would actually say that it is needed and it is something that, when you have a space that reflects you, it can actually affect your stress and your anxiety. And I do think, along that same lines, there is, you know, for a lot of my clients, they have this immense amount of pressure to do something once and to do it right in their homes. They want to, if they do something at all, they want to make sure it's perfect. There's like this perfection mentality about it.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, part of my philosophy is trying to take that pressure off and trying to take the stress out of something that should be in theory beautiful and fun, but yeah, take away the stress.
So you knew from a very early age that this is what you'd be doing.
I did. I did. Isn't that interesting?
I
It's
Same with me. Right, same exact thing. Right around the
yeah.
same age, like nine,
Yes.
10, 11, right around there. You just, like it's like, yeah, yeah, that's what I'm doing. Yeah. And you
Yes.
just keep working your way toward it. You don't really know that you are, but you're just kind of in that space, right? And I'm sure you were 15, then 16 and on where you embraced art in school, I'm
hmm
sure.
hmm
The creative side of you.
hmm
And I'm guessing you weren't afraid to show your creativity or express it.
No, I was pretty expressive. I wasn't what you would call like um I don't know how to describe it. One of the weird kids, one of the weird art kids. I in fact in my art high school, everyone was very expressive and everyone kind of, it was kind of the bolder the better. And I just kind of dressed the way I want, which a lot of times was just kind of normal, more normal clothes. And so most of the time people didn't peg me in the art department. They always thought I was a different, musician or something else. But
Hmm.
yes, I've always thought that expressing yourself is super important in how you live as well as like what's in your home. And I want to say too, Steve, so when I graduated high school, I thought, I started in college, I did interior design, but I was actually trained as a commercial interior designer,
Mm.
which commercial is, anything in the world. So hotels, hospitals, movie theaters, any sort of office building, anything you walk into basically. And it was actually hammered into me in school that for my program that residential design wasn't as important maybe as commercial. And so when I graduated, I actually really tried to do commercial interior design. So but unfortunately I graduated in the middle of the recession of the financial recession of 08, 09. So there weren't a ton of jobs at that point for commercial interior designers. And so I ended up working a bunch of different jobs, anywhere from retail to this. It was the very beginning of kind of online interior design. People would send me photos of their home, and I'd have to make these 3D models and send it back. And I even worked at a little reupholstery shop, like a mom and pop shop. And so, yeah, in all those jobs, I think as with most people, when they get out of school and they're working something that they don't feel like fits their industry, in the back of their minds, they're like, what is the point of this? Why, why am I even doing this? This is like, not where I'm supposed to be. This is like off this direction. And, as with age, you kind of look back at sometimes those detours and you realize, oh, this actually was super helpful with where I am now.
Do you think that the emphasis was on commercial interior design
Mhm.
because maybe there's more money in that, and that's why that was always pushed as a positive?
I actually think it's a little bit more related to the politics behind architecture and interior design, the relationship. So for a long
Hmm.
time, I think architecture was seen as more kind of this highbrow, serious kind of job, and interior design was more, oh, this is just kind of the fluffy stuff, like the
Yeah.
icing, the stuff that's maybe not needed.
Yep. Yep.
When in reality, architects, the way I was explained it is they do kind of the shell of the building, and then you could even call us interior architects, but the every
Hmm.
hallway, every bathroom layout, everything you see inside is done by a designer. And so I think from a political standpoint, the universities were trying to make the point that interior design was just as serious and just as important of a job as architecture. And it had to do with people's safety just as much as an architect's. So I think it was more of a kind of a outer in viewpoint more so than the money. Because, it's funny, residential design is actually a lot more profitable than commercial design, but it isn't, again, from a university standpoint, they're really trying to make the push, I think, for uh, they want people to consider this as a serious career and not just, oh, you just pick out paint colors.
You know, thank you for sharing that because I'm seeing all different visuals, even the hallway of a hotel. And what is it? It's a square box and there's doors.
Yep.
That's what the architect designed. All right, fabulous, great. Uh, they designed it safe. Okay. Now what? Everyone would be the same without a designer.
Right. And I would even say the architect doesn't even always do the doors or like the length of the corridors or the width. There are all these laws that have to do with exit, how far away the
Sure.
exit door is, all that boring stuff. That all most of the time that's a designer within an architect's firm,
Wow.
but yeah,
Mm.
Isn't that
Yeah, I'm
interesting?
not minimizing anything here, but in my eyes, it's
Yeah.
kind of, and even more so because now there's code. So the
Yep.
door has to be this, the
Yep.
frame has to be here, blah, 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 and on and on.
Yep.
But you brought up a really interesting point in that the architect designs for safety, but so does the interior designer.
Hmm.
When you're navigating around furniture, even in the lobby of a hotel, we're just picking a
Hmm.
hotel, random,
Hmm. Hmm.
that has to be done in a certain way. So there's a certain flow for safety and all of that.
Right. Right. Or think about like a restaurant flooring. Like this was always the example in school. If a customer slips on flooring and hurts themselves and they sue the restaurant, who's held liable? Well, whoever picked out the flooring. And
Mm.
if it was a designer,
Fingers pointing.
that's right. That their
Wow.
job is safety. So yeah, I
Hmm.
remember again, it's not the first thing that strikes you when you think of interior design,
Yeah.
but yeah, it is important. Or, thinking about, yeah, anyone with disabilities navigating something, making sure they're not going to hurt themselves because, a table for a display for clothing, let's just say, doesn't have the right parameters and someone runs into it because they didn't see it because they have, whatever um uh yeah, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Limitation, yes. So I think that yeah, it's a super interesting topic because I do think that yeah, interior design is usually pigeonholed into the residential world when it's a lot bigger. And so coming from that background, it's interesting because I think a lot about that when I'm doing my designs. I kind of have a little bit more of a commercial mindset behind what I do. And then at the same time, there's also this personalization section of my brain when I'm designing for someone in particular where I'm trying to get really honed in on what makes them tick and what gets them excited. And so I'm incorporating a lot of different styles. I'm doing a bunch of different stuff to kind of blend it to make it them. So
Hmm.
it's this interesting kind of teeter-totter of how I think about a space.
Do you, and this is your life's work. You've been doing it for quite some time. Do you ever get nervous?
Do you mean nervous that something's going to go wrong?
Nervous in that, somebody hires you and you're like, hmm, you know, I hope I can meet their expectations in terms of
Oh,
what they
yes.
want. And I don't mean that as a nervous, I'm not capable, a nervous as you want to deliver and
Yeah,
you want it to be everything they want. So it's on your mind. It's
right.
not like, well, just another job, um, Mrs. Harrison wants her living room redesigned. I guess that's no, I detect that you take it personally that, when somebody asks, it's like, this is just as important as that one and that one and that one.
Mhm. Yes, I do. Sometimes I'll get a little, I think everyone has a little self-doubt when they're doing something. Because I've been doing this for a while, I feel like I'm really strong at picking up on cues that people don't necessarily see themselves. So generally speaking, I think in all my years doing this, if I've had maybe one example of someone that they didn't feel like it landed, and I would say that I um designed exactly how they wanted, but they most of the time design is going to make you have to come to terms with who you are and what you really want.
Hmm.
And I think that that process can be really hard because there's sometimes the things that you think you want, you don't really want. And so, because there's so much out there, right? You look at everything and you go, oh, I want my house to look like this, and how do I make it all look together? And that client, I went back and did all these adjustments and everything exactly how they wanted. And yeah, at the end, they were satisfied, but it did take some time because I think they had to realize, oh, we wanted something that looked like this, but in reality, when we actually got it, we weren't really honest with ourselves. And so this isn't really what we thought we wanted, even though this is what we told her we wanted. So it
Hmm.
is like a journey to figure out yourself.
Eh, you know, interesting point, and this is why you are different because you get into the philosophy, the psychology of all of it. But
Yeah.
you look at it this way, that now the client has been tasked with really coming to terms with what they want, and that is also who they are.
Mhm.
Then they have to verbalize it, but they also have to face the, oh, this is what I'm into. We don't really
Yes.
think about that. And, I'm not driving in my car. Oh, what do I want my living room to look like? What colors
Right.
is it going to be? But now you ask that person, what do you like? What do you feel? What's your vibe? All of that. And it makes you think as a client, like, oh, I didn't think about that. I might gravitate toward I love tropical, so that's always my
Okay.
fallback. But you
Yeah.
may say, that's great, we could do that, but maybe you'd like this. I didn't even know I might like that. So it makes the other person, the person that you're working with, really think, like have to come to grips with who they are, essentially.
Yes. And the goal is for you because when a design doesn't look like you, chances are you'll get tired of it sooner and faster. And
Sure.
so you would have invested all this time and money and effort into creating this space. And then you, at the end of the day, you're like, wait, this isn't even like how, you just kind of get tired of it, I think, when it's not really something that resonates with you versus if it really resonates with you, if it really is something, like
Yeah.
you said, kind of the tropical. I feel like some of the other things you've mentioned, you might be a little contemporary, a little bit, I don't know, some other things going
Yeah.
on.
That's what I'm
So
saying.
that's right. Yeah. So when it's the right blend, Steve, I really think that, the hope is that you don't you don't want to change anything for a long time. Because everything feels like because you're really honest with how you like what you like and how you want it to function, and it checks all the boxes.
Your biggest challenge is like a therapist pulling that out of somebody, to going on a fact-finding mission in their
Right.
minds. Like, what are you into? What do you like? And you already, you picked up on cues from other times that we've talked. And
Yeah.
I've discovered that after selling a house and between houses now, kind of scaled it back, purged a lot, and less is more. And I never really realized that. It's if I had the time, and I will soon, going through this entire studio office here, I'm in an office building. I walk around like, yeah, I don't really need that. I don't need that. And I just need to pick a Saturday and just, to the dumpster of these just things that are just hanging out, but
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
it's
And that's
interesting when you realize it.
Yes, it is. And I think, we've touched on this before. People are allowed to change. You're allowed to change. You're allowed to grow. So
Sure.
if something you liked 10 years ago doesn't land the same way, that's fine. Like, you can't tell yourself, oh, I can't change at all. I have to like this. You know, I do think I will say that there are some things that you will always like and you will always want in your life in terms of the designer decor. So most of the time, for example, like colors, there's usually you have like a happy color and you usually have that color for decades. It's not something that you kind of change out. You can like other colors, but I do think there's usually a couple
Hmm.
colors that from, I don't know, whatever age you just kind of cling to.
It makes us think, what are those colors?
Yeah.
I would have to gravitate toward the blues, the greens in that family right in there.
Hmm.
If it was, I'm not into browns, I'm not into this orange is an anomaly on this wall. That's different. That's done for a reason. It's part of a logo as well, but I
Okay.
wanted the pop. Would I walk
Yeah.
around wearing orange? No.
Right. Right.
It's not my thing. Um,
Right. But
but you may make me and anybody else see the other side of it. You ever think about, about this? Oh, I didn't realize, that color would work with that one. And that is looks very fresh and refreshing. I don't know that. That's where your expertise comes in to show,
yes. Well, I was going to say that orange is tropical. So it is it is on brand if you think about it that way.
Hmm.
Um,
Well,
yes.
interestingly, that orange is part of a logo that has green. You're like
Okay.
a you're like a psychologist, I swear.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
and there, what are we talking about here? Kind of more, even more tropical. It's not part of a logo with black, it's part the logo is green. So
I mean,
smells like
yeah,
tropical to me, and I didn't even know
that's
it.
yeah, exactly. That's that. I mean, that's exactly what you find in tropical paradise. Lots of green and some blue, but
Yeah,
lots of green.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
Yes, my happy colors. I mean, it is interesting getting to know people and getting to know kind of what gets them excited. I'm actually doing a bathroom right now. My clients' happy colors are blue and orange. So you got to be
Hmm.
careful sometimes because I think you can get a little overboard on
Yeah.
color combinations, but we really kind of are going for it in her bathroom. We're actually doing her vanity in a really beautiful saturated orange, and the walls are going to be this really fun wallpaper that almost look like these starbursts of different shades of blue with lots
Now
of white in it.
I'm
So
detecting the shades of blue. I'm just maybe I'm getting a download here. The shades of blue are gravitate more toward a slate type blue in that, that area. Would you say kind of like that?
well, you know what? You're in luck. I have the sample.
Oh, let's see. Yeah. Oh, okay.
This is, can you see it?
Yeah,
It's a little
yeah.
fuzzy.
Now,
A little fuzzy.
from a distance and on a screen, I'm going
Yeah.
to say that that's more of a slatey blue. And would you say so?
Yes, I would say it's not in your face. It's more muted. It has
Yes.
yes, it's like a calming blue. And
Yeah.
it has a lot of white in the background, so I think it's not so jarring as what you think about when you think of blue and orange together.
That's where I'm going with that. Yeah. It just kind of tempers the orange because you said it's kind of
Yes.
a bright orange. And
Yes.
before I picked that color out, I went through a ton of them because I didn't want too bright. I didn't want too muted. That's called koi, the koi fish. And it just
Yeah.
seemed that was, well, you know what? That's a nice little blend there. And then that's actually a gray wall, a light gray. So that could be my blue in some
Yeah.
regards.
There you go. Yes, my orange is a little more saturated than yours. It's called carrots.
Okay.
So it is what you think. It is pretty strong, but it is her favorite color. And so going back to this whole, surrounded by what you love, if your bathroom is your retreat, why not have your
Hmm.
favorite colors?
I don't like my bathroom. I'll be honest with you. I love my bedroom, not the bathroom. And there's probably reasons why, where I'm not feeling the color in there. And I will admit, when I moved, I was in a rush, so I kind of put everything together real quick. But it could use some love. But whatever.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, there's still time. I mean, unless you're about to move again, but usually, yeah, bathrooms will always get a return on investment.
hmm. um, it's fun. You make it fun. You really do. And when you describe things, I see the visual. I
Oh,
see the
good.
visual. Yeah, it's amazing. Um, how does
Yes.
somebody find you if they even just want to start the process, pick your brain? I know you can do this virtually anywhere,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is beautiful with technology today. What's your website?
Yes. Yes, my website is the name of my company, Rise Interiors with an S dot co, CO.
Yeah. Do you a free consult if somebody wants to, just kind of start the process, see if it's a right fit?
Yes, I do. I have a 15-minute phone call that I'm happy to chat, hear your story, hear your needs, find out more of what you're trying to figure out. Most of the time, there's something yeah, it's usually something that's really bugging you about your home, and that's kind of usually where you want to start.
With the design therapist, that's what
Mhm.
you are.
Oh, that's a nice term. I didn't,
Design
I
therapist.
don't know if I've thought of it like that.
Well, it's
I don't, I feel like I need more training to be a real therapist, but I, I, I can try to help to make sure that you love your sofa.
Yeah, well, that's it. You go love your sofa, love your life.
There you
Wonderful
go.
talking with you again today.
Thanks, Steve. It was great
Thank
being
you.
here.
We'll be right back.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house.
And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.